Hi everyone, my name is Courtney and welcome back to my channel. And today I'm going to be going over my 2022 reading goals, kind of giving a mid-year update, as well as covering my TBR for the rest of the year. So before we get to that TBR, I want to go over my reading goals. I just watched my videos, so I've caught up with what my goals actually were. My reading goal was to read 50 books. I've just read my 54th book, so I am on top of that, and I will probably make it to 100 again this year, which is great. Manga's definitely helping out with this, but you gotta do what you gotta do. I'm just trying to keep myself out of feeling slumpy, and that's the best way to do it. My other goal was to read my TBR, and I was especially thinking about books I had on my physical TBR in 2021 and 2022. So at the end of the year, I had Assassin's Quest, Villette, Babel, The Atlas Six, Out There, Sea Sparrow, Reign of Gold, Priory of the Orange Tree, and the Sci-Fi Fantasy Short Story 2020 Best Stories collection. So of those 9, I've read Assassin's Quest, Villette, Babel, and The Atlas Paradox, and so I have 5 more titles to go. My other main goal was to focus on series, finishing up and completing series, and honestly a lot of the series that I'm in the middle of reading, the last book just has not come out yet, so it was difficult to stay on top of this, but I finished the 8th book in the Wayward Children series, which was on my list, as well as finishing the Atlas Paradox, which is the 2nd book in the Atlas Six trilogy. I finished the Assassin's Quest or the Farseer trilogy, which was the big one I really wanted to finish, and I finished Darius the Great is Not Okay to finish out the Darius the Great trilogy, or no, duology, it's just a duology. And then the other series that I haven't finished that I could potentially finish because the books are out is going to be Ursula K. Le Guin's The Earthsea series. This hasn't really been a main focus for me, but I would like to get back into it and potentially read the next book in the series. And then I haven't read the 3rd new Singing Hills book, which is a part of Nevo's Empress of Salt and Fortune novella series. I was kind of waiting for the 3rd book to come out in paperback, but I really love this series, so I might end up reading the 3rd book via audiobook. The big series I really want to keep on top of is Kami-sama Kiss. I bought the volumes at the end of last year, and I really want to stay on top and read that entire series this year. And I'm on volume 6 or 7, so I've got a long way to go for that. My other goal was to read nonfiction. I haven't read a lot, but everything I've read so far I've really enjoyed. I've read 2. I potentially wanted to read 8, so another thing I'd like to ump up and get a little more on top of. I wanted to read more adult sci-fi fantasy, and I've read 25 out of the 30 I wanted to read so far. That is counting adult fantasy manga, but yes, 25, that's a good amount. The other goal I wanted was to read less audiobooks. I felt like I wasn't focusing in on them. I feel like it was taking me away from me connecting to books. This has since kind of altered or changed. Basically, I now have a job where it is really easy and almost encouraged to read audiobooks. I wouldn't say I'm doing a mindless task, but I'm doing something where I need to be listening to a podcast or music or just something, and audiobooks have come in really handy for this. I'm being very particular with the audiobooks I'm listening to, trying to pick up more like light, fun kind of reads, books that I would want to read as an audiobook anyway. This isn't like a big deal for me as much anymore because I'm doing a task where I need to listen to something and the audiobook isn't distracting me and I'm just having a good time with it. And then the other kind of more channel goal is that I wanted to work on my vlog series, do more fun creative videos, as well as stay on top of my seasonal reading vlogs. So far I've stayed really on top of that. I also wanted to stay on top of doing reviews. I've only done 1 official review on my channel, but I've done about 5 or 6 TikTok reviews and I've really enjoyed doing those. So potentially I will be uploading some TikTok reviews onto here as YouTube shorts. I know, disgusting, but I am writing reviews as well as Goodread reviews, so I feel like I'm staying on top of this. So let's kind of get into my reading goals for the midpoint of this year. So I'm definitely feeling ups and downs, like just feeling super slumpy while reading and then feeling really great while I read some good books and then slumping back again when I'm either not in the mood or I'm just reading something that isn't getting me feel super invested in it. And I'm like trying to switch gears. I'm trying to keep myself from feeling that way, but sometimes that's just how you're feeling. Especially me, I go on like 2-week binge periods where I'm reading a lot and then like 2 weeks of downtime where I'm not reading. But this year, I didn't really have a lot of hard goals for myself. I was really trying to challenge myself in 2022 and 2023 I was kind of like taking a break, more focusing on content creation and the books that come along with that kind of process. I wanted to focus in on the books I already own, and that's kind of what I'm feeling now, is that I have a huge stack of books that I've bought, one for videos and just like other stuff. Yes, personal stuff, but also just like other reading vlog content type stuff. And so since I have such a big pile, I want to focus in on that. So I'm kind of putting a pause to any nonfiction goals, to any kind of series goals. Like, I just want to focus in on what I own right now. So my main goals would be reading my manga series, which are Kami-sama Kiss and Haikyuu. Those are the two series that I have to read and catch up on, that are finished, that have a lot of volumes out that I have to read. And then the second is to really focus in on my physical TBR. So I don't want to say I'm on a book buying ban, but I don't really want to be buying any more books to read unless it is for specifically my summer reading vlog. That is the next video I have up on the docket. I honestly don't have a lot of reading vlog ideas that I need to prepare for. I probably should prepare some. The next big thing on my docket is the summer reading vlog video. That's going to be 4 or 5 books. That's going to take up like a month or 2 of reading. And so at that point, like, the year is spent. So by the time I finish my summer reading vlog video, it's going to be August, and I'll only have a couple months left of the year. And so I really want to focus on getting my TBR as down as possible so that I'm ready to start the new year with new goals, with a blank slate. And I'd really like to get some of those books off my TBR that I've had for a year or more. So now that we are done, let's pop over to the TBR and actually take a look at it and see what we're working with. Hello and welcome to the other side of my room. This is where I keep the TBR stack, and these are the books that I want to potentially finish by the end of the year. Like I said, I have probably about 4 or 5 books incoming for my summer reading vlog, but for the rest of the year, this is really what I want to focus on reading. On this side, I have Haikyuu, as well as 1 volume of Villains Are Destined to Die. This is a manga that I've read online, or a manhwa that I've read online. It's one of my favorites of this kind of genre. And so this is more of like a collection piece, but I do want to read it and kind of decide if this is a series I want to continue buying physically. And then at the bottom of the Haikyuu stack, I have Kimi ni Todoke. I have about 4 volumes of that. I randomly saw it in a bookstore. You never see that manga in the bookstore. It's not out of print. I think it's coming back into print, but older shoujo titles are hard to find. When I saw it, I had to pick it up. So that is like one potentially I'm going to collect, but it's kind of on the back burner because Haikyuu is the main focus to completing, because I want to complete it before the anime movies come out. And to do that, I want to get through my volumes of Kami-sama Kiss, which there are many of. The other kind of one-off volume I have is Drifting Dragons Volume 1. This again is a series I really enjoyed the anime for. This is more of like a collector's piece to remember that I really like this series. That's kind of what I'm working with. Kami-sama Kiss, Haikyuu, and then a couple single volumes of some random stuff. Series that are technically on the back burner and until I decide I'm going to collect them. The only other comic I have down here is going to be Fence Volume 5. This is like another high priority item for me because I have to reread the original series to get back into it to read that 5th volume, but it is one I've kind of had for a little bit on my shelf. I think I bought it at the end of last year. And then here's the book stack. So let's just start at the top. I got Beyond the Black Door. This is one I bought for Pride Month that I didn't quite get to. The Sun and the Star by Rick Riordan. Another one I brought for potential Pride. Out There, this is a carryover and one of my priority books that I want to read this year. It's one that I had on my shelf last year, so again, priority, but it was one that I pulled out to read for Pride and just didn't quite get to. I have The First Sister, which is my current read. I'm halfway through this and I had the audiobook of this from the library. My hold ran out, so I'm just waiting for the hold to come back. Potentially I could finish it physically, but I was really enjoying the audiobook. And then from here, we're pretty much kind of going from some of my more recent purchases to ones that I've had for a little bit longer. So I have Our Wives Under the Sea, which I brought during Pride Month. This is speculative fiction, literary fiction type jam, but I really want to read this. I don't think this will apply to a video idea, but I want to read it. I have my one and only nonfiction on my shelf, which is Moby Dyke, which is about lesbian bars. I put in for the audiobook. Who knows when I'll get that, but I'm excited to read it. Another recent read that I bought during June, I have The Office of Historical Corrections by Daniel Evans, short story literary fiction collection. Loved this author's first work, so I want to read this one. The next 4 books I kind of bought in a haze at the beginning of Pride Month. I was just really excited about adult contemporary romance stories. So I bought The Charm Offensive by Alison Corcoran. I loved Alison Corcoran's other books, so I really want to read this. And then I have 3 other books that are going to be in a reading vlog video. There's definitely a theme to this reading vlog, and maybe you can guess what it is. I got Devon and Chris Plan a Wedding. I got Paris Dalencourt is About to Crumble. And I got Queerly Beloved. If you can guess what this reading vlog is about, and if you can potentially give me any other recommendations that I might have missed, yeah, I'd love to know that. I got Long Shadow. I think I bought this at the middle of winter at some point. I read Half a Soul, had to buy the other 2. I don't know when I'll get to this, but I just read the second book in the series. I got Ring Shout, which is a short novella. It's horror, it's speculative, it's literary leaning, I think. Really excited for this. Potentially thinking about reading it as an audiobook. I don't know if the narrator is good for it, but I feel like this potentially, if it's very poetic, could really work as an audiobook. And then we also have Chain Gang All Stars. This is by Nana Kwame Adjei-Brenyah, which this is the author of Friday Black, who was my teacher in college. I'm very proud of him for writing and getting this book out there. I want to read it, support him, but I bought this when this book came out, on the day it came out, again, to support him. I've heard great things about this, like from random people, so it makes me really excited. I'm guessing this is literary fiction, but fantasy, speculative leaning. Really, really excited for this. And at the bottom here, this is where I have the reads that I've had the longest on my shelf. This I bought in 2021. It's sci-fi fantasy short stories. This is one of the ones I was talking about as one that was on my TBR at the beginning of this year, along with Sea Sparrow, which is a YA fantasy, Reign of Gold, which I've had on my shelf for a pretty long time, not gonna lie, and then Priory of the Orange Tree, which I bought at the end of December of last year, and it scares me because it's just so big. Those are the books that I have on my physical TBR, so those are the books I want to get to reading this year. I got 18 books physically on my TBR, not counting manga, and then I have about 5 or 4 books that will probably be on my next reading vlog. Like, I'm not saying the books because I don't know what they are yet. I haven't picked them out for the reading vlog yet. I'm just getting started with that reading vlog, but I am really excited about it because it will be the conclusion to my seasonal reading vlogs. So that's kind of how my year is looking. Normally I focus a lot on finishing up series, but this end of the year going to be a lot of just trying to finish what I have on my TBR. So I have 2 reading vlogs that I have pre-planned that I want to put the work into, but I'm not sure what else to do with this. Maybe there could be a reading vlog series where I read books picked for me by a generator or something. Maybe there could be some kind of grouping or pairing with different books. I don't know yet, but like that's what I'm kind of looking at. I don't really want to buy any more books, so it's just kind of figuring out how to theme my content around the theming my content around the books that I have left. And yeah, all these books really excite me. I really want to read them, and I'm hoping that I can read them and then come into the next year with a clean slate, with fresh plans, fresh ideas. That just sounds really appealing to me. So that is kind of what my reading goals were, what I've completed, and what I'm looking forward to at the end of this year, what my reading plans have kind of changed into. So I would love to know what you're reading this year. What are your plans for the end of the year? What's a book you want to read? And as always, the YouTube algorithm is not a friend to smaller creators, so any comment, like, subscribe, very greatly appreciated, especially those comments because I want to talk to you guys. I want to know about your book tastes. I would love to connect with you. So thank you so much for watching. I'll see you guys later, and happy reading.